I can safely say that the backlash surrounding this film is only a small part that I got over rather quickly. It is a spectacle of practical effects that Christopher Nolan is renowned for. It is a savage and brutal look at war, survival, and the perilous journey home, and the actions that one must take to get back. The soundscape is ear piercingly loud, an assault on the senses. The shift in perspective does get a little bit confusing at times. I do think that the film is a little bit too long. It's not the perfect film, but it's not great either. I feel it's definitely somewhere in the middle. I give this film a solid 6 out of 10. Let me know what you think. The Odyssey is about Odysseus' 10-year-long journey after the Trojan War, and back home in Ithaca, the throne is empty, and so there are suitors that are claiming their right to the throne whilst Odysseus travels back home from the war. The film is actually really quite good. I feel that there are certain scenes that really elevate the film, and two in particular. There's one scene with Samantha Morton, who plays the witch Circe, who turns Odysseus's men into pigs, and some of those special and practical effects were incredible, and how she managed to morph the soldiers into pigs was absolutely amazing. I wonder if they took inspiration from films like The Thing and Werewolf in New York and Werewolf in London, in those types of sort of practical effects. And it seems like it was all done in camera and very, very cleverly done. In The Thing, Rob Bottin would use like a pulley system to pull the monsters from one point to another, and it looked very reminiscent of that. The soundscape for that scene worked really well because it focused more on the men. It was more low key. It was about the gruesome nature of the witch Circe's and how she was feeding them, and the noise of the men eating along with the squeals from the pigs, and all sort of built this horrific scene, which was probably the standout scene in my opinion of the film. After that scene, I kid you not, two people sat in the row in front of me left because they felt it was so grotesque. Another fantastic scene, which was very brutal and an aspect of the Trojan War that we never actually seen before, was the perspective of the soldiers inside the horse, the famous horse that the Trojans take in as a gift from the Greeks. And so, what was really brutal was the fact that half the horse was in the sea. And so the men were literally drowning underneath, and you saw that depicted in the film because it didn't account for the tides coming in, and so they had to pass them these straws to try and help them breathe, but it didn't help. And so imagine being in those cramped conditions. Imagine being one of those soldiers trapped in this horse, only to then be taken into Troy and at dead of night sack the city, which was their plan. And so that was really well depicted. There was a third scene that I did like but was flawed. I feel the scene with the Cyclops in the cave was actually really terrifying, but the soundscape was so ear piercingly loud that I felt my eardrums were going to blow out of my head. It was really, really loud. When it comes to the casting, I feel it was actually pretty good. Matt Damon does a great job as playing Odysseus, and he looks very sort of old and haggard, and he's in good shape as well. But he's very good in this, and he brings all his experience from his films. He was really, really great. Tom Holland, I thought, was pretty good also, and I think actually Anne Hathaway, the little that she did in this film, she actually did quite a lot and was really quite good herself. and being sort of like the emotional heart of the film. I do feel that uh, the standout side character of this film was Hamish Patel's character, who I thought was just going to be a small role, but actually he was number two to Odysseus, and they worked really well together, and it was really, really good to see. The practical effects were absolutely outstanding, especially those scenes on the boat. You can really sort of sense that they were actually out on the water, and you could sense the waves crashing onto the boat, and it just looked really tactile and tangible, and you could reach and touch everything, and you feel like you're actually a part of this film. I thought the themes here were generally strong, and that they were talking about things about war and survival and the journey home. And that's essentially what this is. It's the hero's journey and what he has to go through, and the sacrifices that he has to make to get back home. And it really does a lot of things well with the themes, I feel. And also, I find that the action sequences were tremendous, especially that final scene. It kind of reminds me of the final scene in one of the Kingsman movies with Colin Firth as he kills everybody in the church. It kind of similar to that. And it really is quite brutal and savage at times. They really have that nailed down. I would say also the pacing of this film is a little bit too sort of confusing at times, especially when it's the shift in perspectives. Because one minute you're on the island and you're looking at Odysseus's perspective and him trying to remember the Trojan War and how he got to the island, and then you've got Tom Holland's character who is trying to find his father and trying to find answers and find out if he's still alive. So he goes to Menelaus, which is John Bernthald's character, and tries to figure out like if the rumors are true about him, and he goes into his perspective, which is still Odysseus's perspective, and the way it was framed and shot for those perspectives made it look like it was just one perspective and that was it. And so it got a little bit confusing. And yes, Nolan is renowned for his use of time. Like we see that in like Dunkirk and in Tenet and all these other films. But with this, it just seemed a little bit choppy and a little bit all over the place, I find. And it got a little bit confusing. What I would say is what happened before the film was released was the marketing campaign. I feel like if it was on purpose that they decided to release the trailer and have all this controversy and just to get people talking about the film and get people sort of interacting and talking about the trailers and the interviews and like the word salad stuff that was going on between the actors and actresses. And if that was done on purpose, then yeah, great. uh, it's clearly worked because people, that's all they've been talking about. On one end it's good because they're talking about it, but on another side of it, it's like shedding bad light on the film because it looks as though the actors have no idea how to conduct themselves in interviews and things like that. So I think if it was an accident, I think they should basically get their actors more sort of media savvy and sort of get them sort of trained into doing interviews and get them sort of more coherent, as it were. Give clearer answers, and instead of coming up with word salad like fucking being in tune with the moon. Like, what are you on about? So, also read the book. If you are in the film and if you're talking about sort of giving screen time to certain people and certain types of people, it's like, yeah, read the book first, do your homework, then maybe sort of comment on that aspect of it. So maybe if you were going to do like this controversial sort of media style campaign. Let the actors be on it, or coach them into like more details, like how you want to market the film. And if you're going to do it purposefully. It looks like they completely messed up the marketing. So yeah, let me know what you think of the film. I think it's sort of a 5, 6 out of 10. It's good, not perfect, a little bit too long, and there are some genuinely breathtaking moments in this film. And it's got something for everybody, I feel. So if you also want historical accuracy and talk about like the armor and the swords and the weapons and all that nonsense, watch a documentary or read a textbook, or just don't go looking for that here. It's a movie. It's a piece of entertainment. It's not meant to be like so much detail and fully accurate. It's more about the emotion and the essence and the journey that the characters go through. But anyway, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, and I really enjoyed it. I actually was coming into it like everyone else because of all the backlash of what was going on beforehand, was a little bit turned off by it, but actually I had a really good experience with it. So yeah. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and I shall see you in the next video.